My name is Aidan Lee, and I am the Look Good and Feel Good host here at the W.O.R.K.S. And thank you to Marina for speaking or listening with me today. And it's great to be here. And obviously, as you could tell in terms of what I'm going to talk to you about is how you can look good and feel good and how that translates over to everything in the rest of your life. Now, before we begin, you can also find me at my body and mind transformation company, which is called FitRoots. So if you want to look at websites wise, you can look at www.fitroots.co.uk. That's FITROOTS.co.uk. In terms of social media, all with the same name, at FitRoots, whether it be Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, everywhere like that, even Snapchat and YouTube, of course. So feel free to check them out there. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to help you and guide you and assist you there. So today, what I really want to go through and discuss is a few minutes on my story, my background, how I got into this, how I help people, and who I help. And then from there, we can delve into the subjects and what can really take away from this in terms of what you can do to really transform your life, body and mind. So I started this body and mind transformation coaching, you could really say, since I was about 5 years old. I've been doing martial arts now since I was 4 or 5 years old, where my dad was actually my first instructor, and this was in the early 90s, and he actually started one of the first martial arts kickboxing academies in our local area, Slough, just outside of London, back in the 1980s. Now, back then, there wasn't that much of the kickboxing in the scene here. It was just coming over from America, and it was a bit of a new introduction to everybody. So pretty quickly and pretty shortly, he became, or the school became, Warlords Kickboxing Academy, the most renowned in the area at the time. And it was a great environment for me to foster my learning and development. So from the age of 5 to 10, I was pretty much learning, just putting in the work, training, 4 or 5 times a week as a young kid. It was quite a dedicated process. And by the age I was, give or take, around 10 or so, I was already at a stage where I was coaching within the classes or coaching classes themselves to all of the other students, anywhere up to 10, 20, 30, 40 people within the studio, or the dojo, should I say, we used to run. So I couldn't have asked for a better start in terms of what I did then and how that applies now. And ever since then, I've been doing that, mostly kickboxing, but I've also studied many, many other martial arts, namely boxing, Muay Thai. Been for a few years with a great master, done some MMA here and there as well, and a few other bits here and there too. So it got to a stage where I was like, okay, I was about 15, 16 years old, and I thought I need to add some more to this and, keep getting better, keep learning. And I was training in one of our classes in a local gym we were operating out of, and I came across a yoga teacher who was very nice and very receptive to what we were doing. So I, introduced myself to her, started talking, and in the end, we decided to trade, if you like, knowledge with one another. So I took part in her yoga class, and she came and trained with us as well. It was a great experience, and ever since then, I still actually work with her. Her name is Kiran Shashi of Shashi Yoga, and she taught me so much about flexibility, mobility, to the yoga traditions, pranayama, all of the breath work from yoga, and how spiritually you can use that to attain your goals, but also to become a better human, to have a better purpose, and of course to have a better existence. So really that's been the last 10 years, seeing as I'm 25 now, and I've really spent some good time in the trenches with yoga, as I think it's a great art if used correctly, just like anything else. And since then, I still felt, I wouldn't say as if something was missing, but there was something more that I could do. So I was thinking of what to do when I went to university, and initially I was actually going to study osteopathy because health and fitness, and I wanted to do something manual therapy based. And the last minute I changed my mind and went to study philosophy instead. So some would say a rash decision, but then in retrospect, I would say a massively important decision for something that has shaped my thinking, my rationality, the way I do things, the way I run business, and of course my life as well, to the nth degree. I mean, it really has made the biggest impact on me. And philosophy and martial arts are very, very tied together naturally anyway. So what I really done from that was, after finishing uni, I was like, I don't know what I want to do. And all that time is sort of staring me right in front of the face. I had all sorts of jobs working since I was 15. And I was like, this isn't fulfilling. This isn't really helping people to the best of my ability and the experience I have. So I decided to merge everything together and to create a full body of mind transformation coaching experience for entrepreneurs to look good, feel good, and do good, but not just look good. I had to make sure that it was a full body and mind experience as well. So combining all of the martial arts, the yoga, the strength training, the breath work, the posture work, and of course the philosophy for the mind aspects as well, I really managed to tap into people in terms of their mindset and actually develop a much, much better result by working with someone like myself, or the process that we go through, instead of just doing a standard exercise, quote unquote, program. So I would say that's really my story and how I've begun, and it's been a great journey. And where I am now, I never thought I would be where I am now, considering I only started officially in business about 18 months ago. So it's been great. And that moves us on nicely to what we want to discuss today. And today I'd really like to talk to you about, as the host name mentions, how to look good and feel good, and consequently, or should I say subsequently, do good. Now, with that in mind, there are many, many things to discuss here, but a few things that I would like to discuss mostly would be in terms of what people are thinking or why they're thinking they want to look good and feel good. Initially, we could talk about what the outcome will be for yourselves if you were to follow a more regimented, more structured, more proven process, as opposed to just going on and doing it. So in terms of looking good, it's something that we all want. And whether that be a reflection of our confidence, ego, whatever it might be, it's not necessarily a bad thing in itself. So some may look at it like that. But however, you need to be comfortable within your own skin to give the best of yourself to the people you want to impact, whether that be in your business, in your career, your family, your personal life, or whatever it may be. So just to keep it simple there is, do not overlook that as something that's very important, because some people may say, oh, I don't really care about how I look and this and that. But for the most part, I found that eventually if you tap on the right button, that they actually do care, and they just didn't want to show it, which is fine, but each their own in that case. So now, biggest one in terms of feeling good is that most people don't even recognize that either they're in pain, or that if they are in pain, they're so used to the pain that they forget, or they forget what it feels like to be normal, to be thriving, to be feeling good constantly, and to be living a life of genuine feeling and happiness through human movement. And the problem is that most people don't realize that it impacts their life so much, and in terms of their goals, that they can actually make much less impact than if they were actually feeling good. So with that in mind, one of the biggest things I see is that people hold so much tension in their bodies, whether it be through their things like clenched fists, or just through their body and their posture from sitting down all day, or whatever it might be, whatever the ailment is, that it not only affects literally their physical appearance, of course, but in terms of how they interact with people too. Time and time again, I see particularly people in the space that I help, entrepreneurs and business people, busy men and entrepreneurial men in particular, that they think, oh, it's something I'll get around to, or something that I will do eventually, instead of aiming to feel good right now and optimizing that, and then as a result, getting better results and success in business. So that's just a brief overview of what we'll discuss. And in terms of the outcomes we want people to get from this, is that for the people, I should probably mention a bit more about the avatar, but the people that I work with, entrepreneurial men and busy men particularly, they think that hustling and just working harder is the way to do it, as opposed to working efficiently and productively. You could work 12 hours a day and lack the knowledge, or you could work 2 hours a day and apply that same level of knowledge, or high level of knowledge, but in a short time frame. And I think people underestimate the value of efficiency and productivity throughout, or via having great energy levels and having a better being, a better way of yourself, of conducting yourself and looking at yourself. So big thing there is increasing your energy ROI. So how much energy can you put into something to gain a bigger return on investment, whether that be in saving time, saving money, or of course in business, making money. So that's the biggest thing there. I see that most entrepreneurs, not just men as well. I think, of course, women are afflicted by this thing as well, or anyone in today's society who happens to think that just out hustling themselves and everyone else is the way to do it. So the outcome really in that sense is you should be getting way greater energy levels. You shouldn't have to wake up one day and worry about why you're not energized and effectively what's wrong with me, because most people don't actually know what's wrong with them in the first place. So that's one of the biggest outcomes. You get that right, you feel good, they look good, and of course the do good will come as a result anyway. So you're not losing out by focusing on this instead of the others, or vice versa. So let's move on 1 second. Just before I do, actually, Marina, is there anything you'd like to add to that, or any thoughts on what you think?
I know lots of questions, but one question that came more than others was about what is the relationship you establish with your habitat and yourself in order to create the feel, look, do good.
I see.
Experience. So it's all about the experience, because some people get motivated and they will, make the changes for a limited time, but then the old habits will kick in. And I know, because that happened to me so many times. And you go back to your old lifestyle without realizing that everything you planted, everything the progress you made so far is going to be reduced to nil once you go back to old habits. So yeah. I think what they want to know, and I hope I'm correct, is how do you create that experience and how you maintain the desire to look, feel, and do good in such a stressful environment like modern society is not really a walk in a park. So time is of the essence, and timing is a great dimension of this equation. So perhaps you could go into a little bit more explaining what is your formula, what is your solution for this crashing environment where everything is like a glass, like a wall glass. You can see it's possible, but to actually enter that space, stay there, it's a big challenge.
No, that's a great question. Thanks for that feedback in terms of what people want. And one thing, or one way I describe it, is it's not rocket science. However, there is of course a lot of contradictory evidence and thoughts out there. However, one of the biggest things that people do try and do, and mostly fail at, unfortunately, is that they'll try and change far too many things at once. Now, the problem with that is that, as you say, you have good habits, you have bad habits, you try it for a little bit, then you fall out of it, and so on and so forth. And if I could have a penny for the amount of times that people have tried this new fad diet or program, well, you know how the rest of that ends. So it's quite a funny one, really. But in terms of how that solution would work, is that you need to sit down and understand that if you're a business owner, for example, an entrepreneur, or like my avatar, or whoever it may be, is that when you set out goals in life, you sit down and think what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, why you're going to do it, and then set out a plan as you would with a business plan, for example. But most people just, for some reason or another, do not apply that same concept to their health and fitness. They just think, oh, I'll just do this and see if it works, basically, is how they do it. And okay, I'll try this program or that fad diet program, and they get initially great results, and then it tapers off because it's not sustainable, as you say. It's not. It sounds very simple, but really the solution is to start small, but knowing what to start with after you've addressed what precisely your goals are, when those are going to be achieved by, and then understand why, just as you would with anything else, as I mentioned. So simply, sometimes the first thing I will get people to do is just write, how much water do you drink? That's a very simple and easy habit. Well, I say simple and easy, but it's It's simple, but it's not easy. And it's a habit that can be changed quantifiably. You can measure quite simply how much water you've drunk in a day. And most people realize how dehydrated they are. So for the first week, I would just focus on one habit. Reason being is that when you go through these other things that people do, they try and change 10, 15, 20 plus and so on habits at once. And that's why it fails. They forget to change one thing at a time. Now, generally, for example, I work with people anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks cycles and then onwards, depending on how long they need. But look at it like this. If you were to change one habit a week for 12 weeks, you change 12 habits. If you change 2 habits a week for 12 weeks, you change 24. So let's just say you get somewhere between that, anywhere between 12 and 24 habits in the space of 12 weeks, alongside doing everything else that you need to. Without a doubt, you'll be much healthier, you'll look better, you'll feel better, and you'll actually do much better as a result. And one key question I would ask people is that, do you want results for the length of your fad program, whether it be 1 week, 10 weeks, or whatever it is, or for the rest of your life? Now, most people aren't looking for results for the rest of their life. They need to make that shift from, I want results for my birthday, for that holiday, or whatever it may be, and stop repeating that cycle of madness and just sort it out once and for all. Does that make sense?
Totally. You know, when you think of old habits, you don't necessarily need to be old to think of them and eliminate them. And what do you think is the difference between somebody who is in their 20s and somebody who is in their 50s? What are within your own experience, what are the challenges for very young people and for mature adults?
Well, I guess age is just one variable, but it's a significant variable enough to just discuss that in general terms. But yes, in terms of that, I would say those in that sort of area of the 40, 50 plus area, or even 30 plus really, is that they tend to have a lot more commitments family-wise. So time is shorter. Depending on what they're doing, money might be higher, but time is shorter. Whereas when people are younger, maybe around the 20 mark, as you say, generally it's the other way around. The money is not always in the best situation, but the time is high. So what that means really, or what that translates to in terms of what those two different groups of people have to focus on, is that the young people may be able to do a little bit more and spread it out over a longer period of time, whereas people who are older and who are thinking potentially, especially a lot of the older people I speak to, that they may be having diabetes soon, or they may be suffering, they're at great risk to suffer from heart disease or whatever it may be, is that they need to act fast, and also in the sense that they need to act fast but efficiently. So some I was speaking to say, I've only got 45 minutes in a day or an hour in a day, and that's fine, but that's 45 minutes or an extra hour than, whereas the younger guy or girl may say, actually I've got a few hours I can play with. Not that you need a few hours, but you see what I'm getting at. The time not just is shorter or longer depending on the age group, but also the urgency in which they need to do something. So I find that not always, of course, but sometimes younger people aren't as urgent, and sometimes the older people are a little bit more urgent because they realise that not only are they going close towards the last half of their life, if you like now, but also that they've had enough and they're ready to make a change.
Wow. So if it's one key message only for today, what that would be for our listeners, Aidan?
Sure. One key message, kind of summarizing but then adding a little point to what we've just discussed, Marina, would be that, and to really consider, not necessarily how much time you have left, but what time you have left. So what value do you place on the time you have left, in the sense that, do you think that you should give yourself the prize, if you like, or the freedom to look good and feel good, instead of just running along and seeing how you're going to turn out? I don't like to leave things to chance. I think that if you're in business, if you're in just in the game of life as everyone is, you should maximize that output and think really what time you have and how that's going to be affected by your overall health and well-being. And if you want to optimize your health, you should be looking at really investing in yourself to the best level, just like as you would in your business and anything else.
Wow. So I think that more than anything was answering most questions. And from both of us, until next time, because it's going to be a next time, and I'm delighted to bring that along, is perhaps look good, feel good, do good. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you for listening.